Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Running with Wolves. Today, I am so excited for this episode because my guest is none other than Shannon Matson. Welcome. I'm so excited for you to
Me
be
too.
here.
I'm honored.
So, for those of you who don't know Shannon from the Social Bungalow, she is a former marketing exec turned serial entrepreneur. Obviously, founder of Social Bungalow, where she's helped thousands of coaches and creatives turn their expertise into signature programs that actually sell. But she did not stop at just that one business. She's built a whole other world in Vegas with a coffee shop, from her flagship coaching brand and her signature Make It Online program to a newsletter with 20,000 plus readers to Bungalow Coffee Co., one of the vibiest specialty coffee shops in Vegas. Her taste, her voice, all of it is fantastic. And today we're going to get into how she juggles being multi-passionate without spreading herself too thin and how she manages so many different brands with different marketing strategies. So, Shannon, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for that intro. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say you are well worth it. So,
Aw.
all right. Well, let's kind of start from the beginning because obviously you went from being a marketing executive to running multiple different companies. Take me back. What was kind of the leap that started it all? Because obviously some of my viewers know you, some of them don't.
Yeah.
Did you always know that you were someone who would build more than one thing?
No, I don't think so. I really fell in love with marketing initially when I was working at an agency. So I got a little taste of everything. And then from there, I wanted something solid. So I started helping authors market their books at a publishing company. And I would say that's the most similar to what I do now, an individual client. And then what's the universe? What's the angle? How do we market it? But from there, I felt like I'd hit redundancy because it was nonfiction book self-help. So it was a lot of the same. And I fell in love with a fitness franchise local to Las Vegas. And so I started to do their marketing and travel. And that was really fun. But it definitely got to the point where it was a lot to manage. And I knew that with the skills that I had amassed and with where social media was, like, that we're talking like Instagram was finally a vehicle to market versus a Valencia filter. I ended up
The
thinking,
good old filters.
yes, with a Snapchat halo crown of
my
flowers.
God. I need to delete my archives from that era.
Desperately. I felt like, okay, I think I could finally do this. But the only way that I could see it from corporate was agency style. I was going to have to do the work versus being able to teach, coach, strategize. So I started as an outsourced director of marketing while side hustling at corporate. And that took me 6 to 8 months of feeling confident enough to make the leap. And when I did, I had a few clients in town, but seeing them get the strategy and not fully execute on it because they didn't have the knowledge was where that friction started to crop up for me. So I said, I think I could probably teach this. And then that kind of turned into Social Bungalow from there.
I love that. I love that. Okay. So, multi-passionate, I think, is something that obviously a lot of entrepreneurs are a little scared to claim for some reason. They
Yeah.
think that obviously it's going to slow them down or it's going to create too much friction because also we're told to niche down, stay in one lane, things like that. How do you think about following multiple different passions without it becoming like a liability?
I think from what I've done so far is that things are very separate. So from a niche down point of view, from a messaging point of view, the Social Bungalow is all about helping online entrepreneurs market their products, whereas the coffee shop is completely different universe. And they don't, even though I'll chit chat about them, they don't bleed. So being multi-passionate for me is more about the management of all of it than it is about the cross marketing of all of it.
Right.
So I think that there's a world where many people who have personal brands, they talk about so much and they have a unifying thread. I think that's the big thing for me is that if you can find the through line, then you can market anything on an account. But for me, I've needed to keep it separate just so that I can keep it straight.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because there's so many people, even in my audience, I know where they'll, start one company and then create a completely different brand, very similarly to yourself. And they almost struggle with the switch between the two sometimes. What have you found to be the biggest hurdle for you in that sense and almost the easiest part of it, if you
Mm.
will?
I would say the products that I sell on the two businesses are so very different because all I need you to do is walk in and buy a cup of coffee and I can make your day off of $6.
Yeah.
Whereas in the online space, the entry point is minimum 4,000 for a lot of the products and beyond.
Right.
And it's transformation work and it's deep and there's a lot of messaging and it's so worthwhile, but it is obviously just so much more depth from you, where the other is lighter and easier and it means a lot too. So getting to kind of code switch between those two worlds is really fulfilling because I find if it's just all coffee, I start to feel superficial. And if it's just all the online space transformation, I start to feel really heavy.
It's too much.
Yes. So the sharing of those worlds has been really good to kind of scratch the itch on both sides, even though it's a completely different mental mode to switch into.
Yeah, that makes complete sense to me. So, what inspired you? Because obviously, coffee came after Social Bungalow.
Mhm.
I know that you mentioned it feeling a little too heavy. Were you looking for more lightness, or what inspired you to really start the coffee shop?
I always wanted to have a coffee shop. I think like many of us when we're younger, we're like,
Yeah.
oh, the coffee and
Lemonade
bookstore.
stand
Yep.
to the coffee shop
Yep.
pipeline.
Bookstore, flower store, all of it.
Yeah.
So I always had that passion. And I think ultimately I was very green and just starry eyed about it. And I'm glad that I was because I wouldn't, if I knew now what I didn't then, I would not have
Mhm.
done it. But what happened was it was the end of 2020, so COVID was waging on, and there was a coffee shop that went out at a dream location for me, and I'd actually hosted an event at their spot because I
Okay.
loved it so much. They were going out. A friend texted me, and she's like, "Did you hear that they're closing?" Sorry to them. Not that
Yes.
we were so happy about that,
No,
but
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
the opportunity arose. So I reached out to them directly and asked what was happening. And they said they were from another state. This was the second location out of state. So they just didn't have the local support. And I thought,
Mhm.
I wonder if I could pull that off. I've been here for 20 years in Vegas.
You would have the local support.
Yeah. And I was
Yeah.
like, maybe this is the spot. So we ended up doing an asset sale where I just purchased basically all the equipment and then negotiated them down a bit. So I had some money for construction and what have you, and essentially assumed their lease. And from November, we opened in March. So a handful of months later,
Mhm.
that was 2021. At my like pre-opening event with the influencers, all the photos, everybody has masks on. It's like,
It's so
I
crazy.
know, weird times and weird time to open a brick and mortar store.
I was gonna say, in an era where no one was going to coffee shops, restaurants, any of those things, you were like, "Screw it, let's do this."
Yep, here I am.
Talk about being starry-eyed.
Yes, it was risky, and, I think it also really worked. I hit the center of the Venn diagram, and I was extremely lucky to do so because the world started opening from there, and I got everything that I got pretty cheap, like how,
Right,
weddings were cheap at the time and all of
right.
that. People really wanted to get out of the house. TikTok had just launched, so a lot of the influencers were doing like, really big people were doing things for free because they needed to get out of the house and they needed more content on a
Yeah.
new platform. So there were several things that lined up to really launch it well, and then there was a lot of local support to then keep it going.
Mhm. I love that. That's amazing. So then when you kind of shifted, talk me through the marketing strategy, the naming of the brand, things like that. Where did that inspiration stem from? And what did you find to be really the most fun part? Not just obviously the lightness of the coffee shop, but like getting to create this entire new world of a brand. What was the most fun part of
Yeah,
that?
great question. I named Social Bungalow because I wanted to be kind of Soho House vibe. So
Yeah,
it was,
that's what it reminds me of.
oh, good.
Yeah.
Yes, great. It was supposed to be like a duality of social media and then social community. And then bungalow feeling like home and things of that sort. So when I initially did that, it just felt right to make the coffee shop Bungalow Coffee. And then it was this physical expansion of the digital world, even though it took on its whole own identity. So naming it was easy, but giving it its own theme, I wanted to make sure that it felt like it as if you could walk into lots of plants, like you could walk into a bungalow in the jungle, wherever you would want that to be. So we're in the arts district in Vegas. So we
Mhm.
have local artists that did murals throughout and they painted little
So cool.
like a kind of tiki hut look on one wall and things like that. So it's been fun to allow it to have its own life
Mhm.
and let that have its own identity. I was really big because I knew that we're in a heavily caffeinated area. There's like 6 other coffee shops in the arts district. So I needed to have my own thing. And I thought coming from Social Bungalow that it should be for the entrepreneur and for the person who's working remotely. So I made the tables bigger. I made sure there's plugs at every table. I got the fastest Wi-Fi, and it's really intended to be a space to go meet and to go work.
I
Lots and
love
lots
that.
of it. Yeah. So with that, I would say it was kind of like I want you to feel like you're at home. Like our Wi-Fi password is stay a while type
Mhm.
thing. And that kind of bit me in the butt because then of course I have a lot of campers and I don't have a high ticket price. So
I
then
was
I
gonna say, how did that go business-wise?
well, then I had to roll out a whole food program to make sense of the increased ticket and what have you. But it's gone well just because the space is large enough that there is a consistent churn of people coming in
Yeah.
and out. And then there's your campers, but it's been good.
And you talked a lot about, like, having when brands you work with them for their marketing, you talked a lot about having a through line.
Mm.
That bungalow theme, was that kind of your through line from Social Bungalow to Bungalow Coffee?
Yeah. We always say we want you to feel like you're at home, like you're comfortable, and that we're operating from radical care. And that, whenever I train the staff, we always say Trader Joe's customer service, and this is our core value.
Yeah.
So if I can, don't have a big kitchen, so I can't make the most gourmet food, but if I
Right.
can make a gourmet experience because you had such a wonderful time and you loved the staff and you felt so comfortable during it, that's my goal.
Well, and that's gonna be the difference maker between someone going to Starbucks and someone going to you guys,
Yeah.
obviously. The product feels very similar, the experience feels different, which is
Mhm.
obviously in marketing, very important.
Hmm.
Okay, so when it comes down to like the marketing of it, you obviously don't have a personal brand,
Hmm.
right? That kind of is the parent brand of these two. And you talked about not letting them bleed. Do you find that there, because of the bungalow theme, is any crossover at all or no?
On the social bungalow side, because I'm helping entrepreneurs with their businesses, even though they're online, there is a cachet to saying, I have done this outside of the online space and I've done it
Hmm.
in corporate. And I think that helps with authority. So I do talk about the coffee shop on the social bungalow to help people know I can figure out your profit margin beyond just what you sell online.
Yeah.
But that's it. I really only mention it for updates or for fun moments on stories. And on the coffee side, I don't talk about the social bungalow at all. So even though they don't cross promote each other,
Hmm.
they exist in their own successful universes. I guess I'm kind of the through line between them. And so my touch is in both, even though
Yeah.
I'm not doing, I'll do all the face to cam stories and what have you on Social Bungalow, almost semi personal brand or expert brand. But on the coffee side, the coffee shop is the star.
Is its own entity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, so let's kind of talk a little bit about your story as a marketing exec. So you went from being a corporate marketing exec to running multiple businesses across different industries, coaching and coffee. What was the one thing that made you, when you were in that industry, realize like I was built for more than this, honestly?
Mm, That's a great question. I think at first it starts small and that little excitement that reignites in you when you start to build something for yourself and you're
Hmm.
sketching out your brand and you're thinking about the website and you're writing copy late into the night and that's all you want to do. So there's this, I always call it happy to be scrappy era
Yeah.
where when you get older in your business, you can't imagine doing the things that you did before. And so kind of harnessing that and feeling really passionate about it and then seeing one client work and then another client work and leaning on my sphere of influence to ask for referrals or introductions, it just started to kind of slowly but surely build brick by brick my own confidence around it.
Hmm.
So I don't know if there was a really big moment versus a slow, exciting growth that happened over that year by the time I was ready to go. There was somebody who got a promotion from outside of the company for a role that I would have been up for. And she came in and they really loved her for kind of the VP role because she had a legal background too, and they were franchising at the time. So they thought, oh,
Hmm.
this is going to be such a good fit. But I get it. But at the time, I felt slighted, and I already had so much built that was really my like trigger moment of okay, about 3 more months, and I
I
gotta
gotta go.
go. Hmm.
Yeah. And you had kind of talked about, even with the coffee shop, you're like, if I had known what I know now,
Hmm.
I don't know that I would have done that. And you obviously kind of talked about that a little bit with the happy to be scrappy.
Yeah.
Can you give me like some examples of things that happened that you had to overcome, these hurdles where you're like, I know I'm being scrappy right now, but like, holy shit, if I had known that,
Yeah,
you know?
totally. I mean, everything is more expensive than you think it's going to be, and it takes longer than you think it will. So, construction wise, there was a lot of learning curves there. Also, when I was younger, I had worked in a bakery, but that was the most that I ever had a health card. And I never worked in coffee, which was also wild of me. So,
I was gonna say, and also like the restaurant industry, the coffee industry is probably one of the more difficult industries to be successful in.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not high ticket price and everybody has an opinion. So, but I would say a huge differentiator, which of course testament to the work that we do, is I hired a consultant because I needed to find somebody who knew everything from the
Yeah.
product to the hiring to the training. So it was this really great situation where he basically through the entire opening coached me through what to do and when, how to craft a menu, all of that. And then came out to Vegas and did a whole barista boot camp, trained everybody up, came back 6 months later, audited how they were doing. That was Chris, shout out Chris DeFurio. That was my saving grace with getting
Yeah.
open. But yeah, construction costs, even everything with the health department, like the level of lumens that need to be in your light bulb in order for it to be
So crazy.
insane.
You're like, sorry, you want me to get what up to code? Like,
Uh-huh.
there's some with the light bulbs. That's, I mean, like, especially for somebody who owns an online business with no brick and mortar
Mm,
expenses, conceptualizing that to me and be like, you want me to do what?
yeah,
I'm
because
sorry.
it's previously just been like a laptop and a dream. So
Exactly. Yeah, there's really almost no expenses for the
mhm,
most part if you want to. So,
totally.
so now that you've obviously had both brands for a significant amount of time,
Yeah.
talk to me about the hardest part of juggling both.
I would say at this point, it comes down to team. Team is everything in order for me to be able to. And so the a team member not pulling their weight and being more in the manager mode than you are in the, actually doing the marketing and what have you mode.
Yeah.
That's interesting to kind of figure out where you're happy and what you want and
Hmm.
how, what's that level of scale that you want to get to that makes you more of a people manager than makes you in the work and
The
feeling passionate.
executor.
Yeah. So my sister is actually our cafe manager, and she's been for 4 years and is extremely passionate about it. It's amazing. Does a wonderful job. She has 3 million followers on TikTok. Like she just loves,
Wow.
yeah, loves social media and
I
is
love
so
that.
funny. So I was like, well, what do you want to do for the Bungalow Instagram? And she's like, I want to start making funnier videos. And the millennial in me wanted it to be curated and gorgeous. And the
Is
Gen
she Gen Z?
Yes.
Okay.
So the Gen Z TikTok and her wanted to do skits and sometimes do weird stuff that's going to get the
Mhm.
attention. So I was like, all right, let's have at it. And it's worked well to where it's increased the following and it's increased the foot traffic. And people, because she'll act in the reels, people will come in and see her behind the bar and be like, I saw you on TikTok.
Yeah.
And because we're Vegas, they'll say, I specifically sought out a coffee shop and I traveled to the arts district because I saw your reels
Oh.
and I thought you guys were so funny, blah, blah. So that's been really fun. But I guess the short and the long is it's really fulfilling to develop young people and to
Mhm.
see their careers blossom. And it's also very taxing to develop young people and know that
Yeah.
the people management of everything is everything.
So speaking of the people management, I guess I kind of have to ask, how is it working with your sister? Because I have worked with my sister as
Mhm.
well at one point, and it was very difficult. So
Yeah.
how is that dynamic?
We have a 10-year age difference, and I think that's
Okay.
the biggest
It
key.
helps. Yeah,
Yes.
it helps. My sister and I are 3.5 years apart. So it's a little close, too close for comfort.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I think and even are you the older sister?
yeah.
Okay, even
How can you
as
tell?
yeah.
I feel like, unfortunately, as an entrepreneur,
Yes.
there's a stereotype
Eldest
there.
daughter always, yeah.
Always.
As the eldest daughter or sister, you already have that, authority and dynamic, but if you're
Mhm.
close in age, I think that definitely weighs on, because I pseudo raised her, so to speak.
Absolutely.
There's a difference of that, and she looks at me, as more of the authority and is happy to give me that versus
Yeah.
being combative. So it works well in that way. Our personalities, blend well, and she is just extraordinarily caring about the shop,
Mhm.
like it's her own. And
Yeah.
so that makes the biggest difference is I know that she always has the best of intentions as we go forward.
It's like your baby raising your baby.
I
I
know.
love that. Do you guys have to keep work and personal separate? How do you kind of deal with that dynamic?
Yeah, we do. It's interesting for her because she's the same age as her staff
Yeah.
and they're all young and they're, hitting the bars afterwards and they're, in this fun
Mhm.
Vegas scene. And so her finding her own balance with them is
Yep.
more so what we'll talk about when we're personal of I'm not going to go to so and so's birthday because I think this dynamic is occurring and then just watching her grow and evolve and
That's
her
awesome.
career flourish too. Yeah.
Which is the fun part and not the
Mhm.
taxing part,
Yes.
obviously. I love that. Okay. So let's kind of talk a little bit about for my listeners right now who are multi passionate, they've got multiple businesses happening, right?
Yeah.
But they're scared that they'll really never be able to juggle it all. Like, I have so many of these fantastic ideas, but will I have the capacity to make this work? What is your honest advice to them? How do they know when they're actually ready to take that on versus when they're about to spread themselves too thin?
Yeah. I would say resources. So if you have team or if you have a plate spinning really well for one of the businesses to where it is maintaining its own current level or it's consistently growing
It's
because
systematized.
yes,
Yeah.
whatever you did, systems, funnels, team, etc. If you've got that plate spinning and you go from needing to be there 40 hours to needing to be there 15, and that's never going to you can always fill the time. So if you can at least get
Yeah.
it to that point where it can maintain, then you have that capacity to free up those hours to go chase something else. And in the beginning of anything, it's going to be happy to be scrappy land. So your
Very much
time
so.
to go do that whilst the other thing spins on, and then you can get that one systematized and then be able to blend a little bit more. It's just knowing that that's going to be the case. I think having a frame of reference is so helpful of, okay, yes, this one is going to stay at this current revenue level and I'm going to be working 15 hours and that's just going to be what it is for the 6 months while I get this one to this level. And
Mhm.
once I hit that, I'm going to be able to hire this person and then spend a little more time there. And it's not going to go perfect. It'll be iterative, that plan, but the ability to know what that's going to look like and know you're doing the right thing because otherwise it is constantly questioning where you should be and never feeling like any one thing is done, struggling to celebrate, struggling to see the end, enjoying the work, but questioning yourself a lot. And I think if we can just give ourselves a box by which we are operating within, okay, this is my frame of reference, this is my time frame, huge difference just for mental
Yeah.
health too.
What do you feel like your frame of reference was?
With the coffee shop,
Yeah.
getting that started.
Kind of that in between moment of social bungalow, we're launching bungalow coffee.
Yeah.
Was it your consultant? Because I know you kind of said that you brought them on.
Yeah, yes, that definitely helped. I think on the social bungalow side, I was at a point, the business model formerly was very course forward. So I had 6 different courses, and I think I had launched one of the last ones that really rounded out the suite.
Okay.
And so because they all existed, I had built a monster funnel. That's what it was to get
Okay.
nitty gritty. It was one funnel that cross sold all 5, 6 courses.
All
And
at
that
once.
was just then pump traffic towards it because then the purchases are coming. And I can then give a little bit more when I need to do a live launch and give my energy and film more
Mhm.
content. But besides that, I know that sales are happening without me needing to be a part of it.
And was it just you still at that point, or did you have
Mm.
multiple team members? What size was your team at that point?
Yeah, small but mighty. It was a main marketer and a main operations individual, but that was
Okay.
it. Yeah.
I love that. And so you had a small but mighty team, which it sounds like obviously you'd mentioned the biggest thing that enables you to take that on is obviously the resources, the system. So that's really, it sounds like what you kind of credit being able to handle both
Yes.
to.
Trying to keep it in my brain. I am not somebody I'm neurotypical, I'm not neurodivergent. And so I struggle to multitask and to bounce around. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are neurodivergent and it's a huge gift to them.
Right. They can bounce around, but actually honing it in is the struggle.
Right. But for me, I have to hone in and I can't context switch
Yeah.
well. I have to do one thing and do one thing well and finish that thing and then get obsessive about that thing not being done in order to do the other thing. So that's my hardest switch is being able to let something breathe while I then have to go pursue something else and bouncing around and balancing all of that.
I love that. So what's the ratio of your focus at this point between the two
Mm.
businesses?
I would say I'm actually working in both less than I ever have, which has
Okay.
been a great year for
Lovely.
that.
After I'm assuming a crazy period.
Yes, a crazy because the coffee shop's working on its 6th year and Social Bungalow is working on its 8th, 9th year, depending
Yeah.
on when I made that switch from agency to teaching.
Mhm.
So this year has been a little bit more in just kind of enjoying the fruits of the labor and letting the plate spin. And I would say I'm 50-50 on both.
Okay.
But next year I need to branch into more. Like it's at this point where there's something more that needs to come, something needs to add.
Yeah. And so you're kind of at that like crossroads again of like, okay, cool. Both the plates are spinning.
Yeah.
What do you kind of envision in the future? Tell me about that.
Yeah. I need to start a personal brand, which we were
I
talking
know we
about
were just
prior.
talking
Yeah.
about this. I'm like, let's dig into this.
Yes. Because it's been so, so fun to grow the businesses as the businesses and then have these splashes of me that help to sell.
Right.
But I think also the online space has changed rapidly and
Very much
having a
so.
personal brand is the way now. And
Mhm.
even though we've always had influencers and people that we adore online, it is personal brand first, product business second.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to fall behind on that and I can
Mhm.
sense it, I can feel it, I know that it needs to come and I think that that would allow for me to, have a bio that says founder of this and that, but here are my thoughts on business outside of the nuance of how to sell an online product or bringing you in to purchase coffee. I think I'm excited for broader conversations and bigger rooms and things that don't feel as nuanced, even though I
Mhm.
love to get into the nitty gritty, because being able to have thought leadership that umbrellas both is an exciting next chapter.
Yeah, I love that. And I know you'd kind of obviously talked about how much the online space has evolved since
Mhm.
you started Social Bungalow and how obviously personal brand first, product second. What other changes? Because obviously you and I are both in marketing. So, on
Mhm.
the marketing side of things, what other changes are you really seeing? Because I will say founder forward marketing has been like the number one change.
Yep.
AI is another really, really big one.
Yep.
What are you kind of seeing as far as changes?
I think now it is so much easier to get online, and the generation that's coming up has been born online, and
Yeah,
therefore the sophistication of the consumer and the saturation of
it's
competition
so different.
is so different.
It's insane.
You can't have weaker generic messaging. You can't be overtly AI'd. You really do need to have a strategy, have it roll out well, have it be built off of that personal brand and the connection first, the community, and then hit your tropes.
Yeah.
For the online space where I help people who are selling IP-based programs, so
Yeah.
they're facilitating transformation, there is so much of the extrinsic motivating factors, bonuses, countdown timers, urgencies that the consumer is over.
Yeah.
And I think that they're helpful components to create a container for decision to be made for the consumer. And sometimes we all need that little bit of push because there's
Yeah.
a countdown.
Just a
But
little
really,
kick in the butt.
yeah, just something. But if it's too heavy on that, which used to work previously, you could
Yeah. Oh,
slap
yeah.
on a countdown on a
Put a
story.
countdown timer, you've got 10 sales
Yep.
in one day.
Easy. Now people see it and they're like, "Oh, please, it'll be back next week," or whatever the
Exactly.
assumption
Oh, yeah,
is.
you'll have those 2 spots open in a week, it's fine.
Yep. So I think the intrinsic motivation is the bigger get now. It's kind of this
Absolutely.
like self-generated effect of the consumer saying, can't unsee what the real solution is. And I'm banging down the door to get in because I know that this is the right work for me. And you are my person. And I am now capable and ready to do so. Takes a little longer. It's more strategic. The rollout of your content, of your messaging is going to take more. But when you put that as your main approach and then you layer on a little ceremony, like
Mm-hmm.
a countdown timer that's truthful,
Yeah.
the ability
Keyword
that
being
is accurate,
truthful. Yeah.
the ability for the consumer to say, okay, now's the time, you're my person and this is my product is huge. So at large, I think founder forward marketing is everything. And then it bleeds in the online space into the way that we are approaching having a conversation with a lead about why this and why now.
Why this and why now? Yeah. And that's exactly what I always tell my clients too. It's the why this and the why now. Why not your competitor? Why not in a week?
Mhm.
Right? We touched on this a little bit as far as being overly AI'd. What's your take on AI? I'm actually very curious about this.
I love it as a tool. And it's really interesting to see what Claude is doing with cowork and like
Big time.
the spooky takeover of the
It's
computer and the
crazy.
tasks. And I think that'll just continue to grow. And it, from a
Yeah.
systems point of view, is great. From a messaging point of view, the utilizing it as a polisher or as a co-thinker, but the crafting from scratch and it's so interesting also the sophistication that all the consumers are getting, the immediate notice of certain words, of certain
Yep.
sentence structure. It's everywhere. And the people who think that people don't realize it are the ones that it's getting realized
Yeah.
on. And so to the team, I'm like, every single thing that you write, I need you to write. And then if you need to finesse or you need to get an idea or something,
Yeah.
you can chit chat with your AI of preference. But
Mhm.
it has to feel like we wrote it because it's collecting the median average of what it's reading online and then spitting that
Exactly.
out. I just read a gal's post the other day that was saying she had somebody bring to her that her framework was getting completely stolen. And so then she reached out to her lawyer reached out to person apologizes profusely immediately and is like, I did not know that this was your framework. I chit chatted with AI and we came up with it together.
Wow.
Yes. And so that she built her whole program around something that AI fed her versus it being truly hers.
That is so crazy to me. Holy cow. Well, and you said something that's super interesting as far as like the finessing versus the starting from scratch. And that's something that I see a lot of founders struggle with. And my kind of rule of thumb has always been you can use it as essentially a team member, an
Mhm.
executor, right? Exactly like you were kind of talking about. But the original ideas, you don't want to sound like everyone else. But then on top of that, like you said, AI is literally a culmination of everything it's pulling from online. So you ask it to write a piece of content for you, line it up with 10 of your competitors' posts.
Yeah.
What are they going to read? Almost the exact same way.
Mhm.
Where do you see AI going with marketing?
Hmm.
Because I know you said it's going to evolve.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see too. I think that it will get more systematized. I think people will stop using it. I think we've been heavily using it as a co-thinker and a copywriter. And
Mhm.
I think it'll start to more so be a systems-based approach where it's helping with tasks,
Mhm.
creative brainstorming, maybe strategy outlines, blueprinting, and then
Mhm.
people will really start to realize how much more you have to color in everything yourself. And
Yeah.
it can't at this point be more than here are some steps that could be good to take.
I think the pendulum has kind of swung to both extremes. It's
Mm,
the very anti-AI and the very for AI and the overuse of AI. So I'm hoping same thing. It kind of swings back to the normalization of using it as a system, an executor, things like that.
totally.
Other than that change in the marketing space and other than the founder forward marketing, as far as brands being on kind of the cutting edge of the precipice of where the trends are going, not even just in the online space, but in general,
Yeah.
what are you seeing?
Hmm. I mean, so much of what we're seeing right now are people, be it their social media manager, but on their fingers on the pulse of what's happening culturally and the connection right
Yes.
there. And you see that great comment from KFC on a video, and it's so clever. And that gets them more cachet and opportunity than if they had rolled out their own great campaign itself.
Yeah.
And even the things that people are doing to play with social media and kind of like to relate it to, let's say, Love Island, where it's this real
Yep.
time happening. And then everybody, every single episode for 6 weeks is talking about it online and the brands are getting in on it. And it turns into more spinoff shows. I think when brands realize the through line to culture and the conversation of the
Yes.
consumer, that's where they're really going to win.
Well, I mean, I talk about this all the time is really like inserting yourself into the conversations your audience is already having.
Yeah.
Right. So For example, obviously Aerie and a bunch of other different brands just did this with AI specifically and took a very aggressive anti AI stance
Mm,
because this is a conversation their target audience is already having,
yeah.
right? And so immediately gained trust, all of these different things from their target audience
Mm,
simply because of that. And so I think that's another really great example is with pop culture being it's honestly so easy too because this is like is so easy for us to obviously have a pulse on and be able to say like, hey, Love Island, for example, The Bachelor, for example, any of these different reality TV shows, pop culture influencers, etc. Being able to be a part of these conversations your audience is already having, I think gains this new level of feeling seen, known, trusting, things like that. So I
yeah.
love that. What's your take on, because one thing I'm seeing as far as a trend in marketing in general, especially with different like bigger brands, e-commerce, things like that, is this like in person with social activation.
Mm.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think that that is great. I don't know if Aerie did this, but to your call out there, the come back to the through line of it all, they have this through line on their core values of natural. And so
Exactly.
them saying we aren't into AI, it's no matter how things evolve, when you have core tenets that then can play in the marketing, there's that. So if we think about, I don't know if they did, but if we think about what they could do in person, they
Hmm.
take this anti-AI approach and then they have an in-person event and it's all about connection and community and it all being really truthful. But then there's also a social component, but it stays true to their core values. I think for brands, when they really have it nailed of what their brand Bible is,
What your values, your mission. Yep.
yes, everything can start to take really fun shape around that. I think
Hmm.
sometimes thinking of core values, they kind of get thrown out the window because they feel like they're stuffy and they're so rooted in integrity versus having any sex appeal and being fun in the market. But anything that you do can then evolve into the in person, the digital, and every in person should have that digital component at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk a little bit because obviously you advise your clients on marketing. Let's talk a little bit about if a client came to you with multiple different brands, they've got this through line, this personal brand that they've built. When you're building a strategy for them, what kind of carries over from brand to brand, or how does that dictate strategy?
Mm. I always call it their ism. What is that main umbrella term that's their main thing and that can be felt across. So for me, it is helping entrepreneurs make it. And the make it duality is building in the best way possible, but then for the business structure, for the offer structure, but also feeling like you've arrived and you've achieved, I've made it. And if I can bring that across businesses, across products, that for me is a real through line. And I think that that will probably show up when I do the personal brand is I
Yeah.
want to help people in whatever capacity or whatever client that I'm
Yeah.
coaching, no matter their business type, get to their version of making it well. And if a brand has that, it can cover so much. For example, I have a client, her name is Jenny. She is an incredible nutritionist, wellness professional,
Hmm.
certified of the yin yang, has done
Yeah.
it for celebrities, just insane.
Yeah.
And she has her online programming. She has consultancy. She's on the board for Johnson and Johnson and speaks at, for Barbara Sturm and her skincare line. And so
Hmm.
she's got all of these different kind of revenue
Verticals.
streams,
Yeah.
yeah, off of her personal brand. And she was struggling to find what it was because she felt the person who was buying the program and it was maybe a little bit more weight loss focused versus the
Hmm.
person who was buying a $500 bottle of eye serum and then would hire her as a consultant was more like biohacking focused. Those
Right.
felt like different verticals. So we went through her entire codex of how she approaches with her clients. And what it really is that she's looking at a cellular level. And when she explains it, it's extremely heady. It's all of the different scientific
Of
terminology.
course, because she's an expert.
Yep. So for her, it's that she knows the science. And then for her consumer, it's no matter if it's weight loss or if it's biohacking, she helps women who want to look better. It is very aesthetic forward. And she's typically in a 40 plus market. So there's perimenopause and menopause at play.
Hmm.
So we ended up landing on her main ism as the science of stunning. And then it goes across everything. So now
Hmm.
it's the title of her podcast, her book, it's her main talk. It is on her homepage of her website to sell the weight loss product, but then it's also for when she goes and speaks to the Barbara Sturm client, she
Hmm.
says, I help you with the science of stunning. So if we can find an ism, a main tagline for the brand, for the personal brand with all of those verticals, that makes a huge difference.
What happens if they're completely like different industries, different target audiences, things like that? Because
Yeah.
that is kind of similar for her with all her different verticals. Similar target audience, science of stunning. That's the goal. That's the outcome they're looking for.
Yeah.
what happens, like, for example, for you when you have like two totally different scenarios, different
Mhm.
target audiences. Your through line, I guess, could be that both audiences are somewhat entrepreneurs, obviously,
Yeah.
right? But what happens if they're in different industries? How do you make that happen?
Yeah. I either say it's about the audience that you just called out. So
Yeah.
you've got a similar person and that can help you, or it's about you because of how much everything needs to be founder led now. And I can
Hmm.
think of so many influencers that grew a great following and it was about their life and their home and their style, but then they made a cupware line.
Right.
And the way that it was articulated, the style, the shaping, the core values of that business, and even if it was, I've been supporting, millennial moms in my audience, and now I'm going to sell this to somebody who's around that age too. The audience can be similar, and even though it's a completely different product that they're selling, this is clearly so and so's. I can feel it, I can sense it. It has her mark.
Je ne sais quoi, if
Hmm.
you will.
Yes,
Her
perfect way to
ism.
explain it. Yeah, her ism.
Yeah.
And so I think not to then poo poo anybody who's like, no, I want to go completely different audience, completely different
Yeah.
industry, because you can. It's just going to take a little bit more
It's going
work
to be difficult.
if you're not able to leverage what you've built on one side into the other. That would be my biggest tip is if you are going to do something different, if the audience could be the same, or if your core value could be the same, if there's something that's going to be felt across the board,
Hmm.
you'll be able to leverage what you built previously.
And it's interesting. Have you read the Emma Grede book, Start With Yourself?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so it's interesting because what you just said reminded me of her book because she was talking about how when she had first launched Skims, they were very much a solution-based apparel company and how that's been almost their through line, if you will.
Yeah.
And she's talked about all of these different products that they've kind of come out with and essentially how they've always gone back to we are a solutions-based apparel company.
Mm.
That's their through line. And so if you can always remember that, if you can always return to that, anything else that you build is always going to have the same effect with your target audience. So I love that. So let's talk a little bit about obviously so much of your content is you for the social bungalow side of things.
Mhm.
And then obviously you've got your sister in the
Mhm.
marketing for the coffee shop. When it comes to the intentionality of that, what is kind of your guys's like taste, personality, voice that you bring to both sides to really show up authentically and then leverage your faces almost as like the marketing engine for both?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the thing that is felt on both sides would be that home aspect and that we want you to feel comfortable and seen. And this is an offshoot, but I always, whenever I go to dinner with friends, I always bring dinner questions, like a little
Oh,
list
like
on
the
my
little
phone.
card games or
Yeah.
on your phone?
Yeah, on my phone. Like if I
I
think of
love
something,
that.
I'll jot it down. So they're like, okay, what are our dinner questions tonight? And I had asked the other day to a group, what is the main thing you want somebody to feel after they leave spending time with you?
Mhm.
And, somebody said inspired and somebody said, we went around the table and I really thought about it and I was like, I think mine is special. Like I want somebody to feel how special they really are.
Wow.
And when that happens on the social bungalow side, the clients are the center of the universe for the company. And so they are, and we're extracting what's special. We're marketing what's special. We're making them feel capable and special so that they can go and make their voice even louder and amplify that. And on the coffee side, that is a huge part of the customer service. So I think in the way that we're marketing it too is we want people to consume it and not feel a huge pretense, to feel comfortable, accepted, inspired, and like
Yeah.
I'm capable. I can do this.
Mhm.
So that even though it's, she's doing a goofy reel and I'm talking about business, if that can be the main takeaway, and if that's not for the consumer and they're like, I want to feel, more vigilant, more rigor, more
Mhm.
resilience from a brand, absolutely. There are so many options for that.
It's
For
just
us,
not
we're
us.
like, yeah, we want you to feel special and capable.
I love that. Okay. So talk to me a little bit about kind of the vision from here. You mentioned obviously incorporating more of the personal brand side of things, more brands under the umbrella, going deeper within each of these different companies. And I guess I'm curious, like in this kind of new phase, because you're in this place where both of the plates are spinning perfectly.
Mm.
In this new phase of entrepreneurship for you, what does like I made it really look like for you right now?
Yeah, I would say that I am needed less in the actual doing of some of the work on both sides. Like the hours that I do spend, writing this or organizing that, I would love for that to get even more elevated. Even though, of course, I always say that marketing is a CEO function, no matter what seat you're in. And
Very much so.
you need to be involved. So I'm not taking that away, but being able to get it a little more autonomous on both sides so that I can have a personal brand that allows for me to speak about my philosophies on business and help a larger clientele or a different industry clientele, and then pipeline traffic towards the appropriate business from there. That I would love to be more the mouthpiece for the businesses than I am currently so intimately embedded. And so I think the way I need to do that is give myself a microphone to do it. So I need to make the
The
account.
personal brand, yeah.
Yes. I need to
This
get the mic.
this is your jumping off point
Yeah,
right
I
here.
know. You guys heard it here first. Hold me accountable. And that feels like the best next thing because I'm really not right now craving another company with another product to figure out, with another lease to sign.
Yeah.
I don't want to make another LLC right this moment.
You're like, I'm really okay. I
I'm
don't
good on
need
the
that.
taxation. Like, I'm fine.
Oh, yeah. I feel you on that one.
So
Yeah.
I'll let those do their thing for a minute, but I need to. Well, I need to make a decision, and that's kind of what I've come home to is they're at great spots. Do I want that to be the case? And for a lot of people, like I say, with the making it, there's just this constant line moving that we all feel. And I talk to my clients a lot of the time, and I say, okay, your business is making $500,000. Are you happy with that? You're taking a lot of that home. You're have a small but mighty team.
Yeah.
You have these incredible lives that you're supporting. Your life looks different than it did. You have a partner in a dual income household. You're able to be with your kids. Do we need more? Do we want more? Is that what the chase is? And for me, I've been kind of questioning that as well. Like, is this where I'd like it to be for a period of time or to pursue something different personally? And I think I'm at the point where I'm like, no, I do want to chase more. I do want it to grow. So if I don't want to do another product, if I don't want to do another company and I want to grow these, what are my options? I market more internally, I hire more, or I drive more traffic through me.
Yeah. How do you, because I know a lot of my listeners they're gonna listen to this episode and be like, Shannon, that sounds fantastic, but like, how the hell do you arrive at that decision?
Totally.
What does that process look like for you? Because I know so many people relate to that internal battle of like, do I want more? Am I comfortable right here? How do you decide that for yourself?
I would say it took me probably a year and a half of maintaining the same level of business structure, business team in the business, everything kind of going the same. And knowing at any point, like I could tell you the numbers perfectly. This is how many people are going to be there. This is the conversion rate. This is what it's going to be. And that felt really good just to have that repeatability and that predictability. And sitting with it for a period of time and then pursuing, do I want to travel more? Do I want to start a family? Like all those different things that we, especially as women, are thinking about at certain ages. You get to the point where I think you have to, of course, just jump, make a decision, but you have enough clarity over enough time. And I'm not a super fast decision maker. I do like to sit things a little bit longer to feel very clear. And so I would say permission granted to do so and to let it be, to celebrate what you've done and let it be the same, even if that's a year's worth of time, to say this was really good. And I got so much more cleaned up, systematized, solidified. And now I feel like I've got clarity and I can make a big jump.
Yeah. And I relate to that too. I mean, that's exactly what I went through over the past several years. I pretty much was just coasting in the exact same way. I was so happy with where we were at. And we continued to do refinements, all the things, like you just said. And it got to the point where I had this gut feeling of like, okay, now's the time.
Totally.
It's time to level up. And it was really interesting because you had kind of talked about, the other person in your corporate company, the agency you worked for, being chosen for that VP position.
Yeah.
I had a very similar jumping off point earlier this year or late last year. The Forbes 30 under 30 list came out, and someone who had way less experience, made way less revenue than I did, got on there in a similar industry. And I was like, oh, hell no, we're kicking it up a notch. We're going. And so, but I sat with it for a minute, right? Like that was late last year. And then early this year, I was like, okay, this is our year, right? So I think the sitting with it is really important. And there's a balance to it because there's something that a lot of people will talk about, which is if you don't take action on your idea, someone else is going to come out with it first to market, or, obviously to take up the biggest market share is super important. But I love what you said about like permission granted to sit with it. Because I also think that so many people will get in over their head of like, oh shit, this isn't actually what I wanted or thought it would be.
Yeah.
Because they didn't sit with it.
Totally.
So
Yes.
I love
that's
that.
a great call out because that is so easy to do. Like just because you can, should you? And the women that I imagine listen to this show and the women that we support are so incredibly capable. Like they are change makers, movers and shakers. And so you can literally do anything, but should you right now, is that the right fit? And I love that moment. And for me too, with that person getting that promotion, it's not about her because she's perfect person for the job.
Fantastic.
Perfect person for the list. Great. That was all wonderful. It's what it then clarifies for you.
Yes.
And if you haven't gotten that clarity and there hasn't been that moment, and sometimes it's not like a divine download or something that pops, but go out, get outside of yourself a little bit as well. Like travel a little, take a weekend trip, consume different media, just do something else because something will pop that's out of the routine that will give you that as well.
Isn't that so funny how that happens? The second you rest, you're like, oh, I had another business idea. This is what we should do. Here's a content
Yep.
idea. Why do we struggle with that as women so much? We
Yes.
really do struggle to rest so much, but I agree with you completely. I love that so much. Okay, well, so tell my listeners how they can connect with you more if they are wanting to develop a program that actually sells with their IP, things like that.
Yeah.
How can they connect with you? How can you support them? All the
Yeah,
things.
thanks. So the Social Bungalow is my website, is my Instagram, and I hang out on Instagram most. So if anybody wants to, even after hearing this, shoot me a message, say you heard me on Savannah's podcast and we could chit chat about anything there. In general, my main program is called Make It Online, and it helps people who have an expertise that they want to turn into a digital group-based program,
Yes.
craft it, market it, sell it. Especially if you are somebody who's been doing consulting or agency style work and you know, kind of like my story, that you could stop doing and you could start teaching. It's really focused on helping you take what you do so naturally back of brain, pull it around to the front, analyze, turn it into IP so that you can teach somebody else the same.
I love that because that's not something I help with. I don't develop the programs. I don't do any of those things. And I know so many women who really do struggle with that done for you transitioning into
Yes.
consulting coaching. So that's going to be the perfect fit for them. So you guys heard it here first. Go see Shannon.
Thank you.
And if you're in Vegas, go to the
Yes.
Bungalow coffee
Come
shop.
to the coffee shop. We would love to have you. Whenever the the baristas,
Yeah.
they hear about, oh, I follow Social Bungalow online. They're like, oh, so cool. You know, what
That's
do you want?
awesome.
What did you see? And they try
Yeah.
to make you guys something special. So
I
come
love that
anytime.
so much. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was a really cool
Yes.
conversation.
Thank you for
So,
having me.
absolutely. All right. And thank you guys so much for listening. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.